Hi, welcome back to AT Math. Today, 9-6, solving quadratic equations by factoring. Why, it's easier than driving a monster truck. Okay. Using the zero product property. Use the zero product property to solve each equation. Check your answer. In other words, it says x minus 3 times x plus 7 equals 0. Provided you make either one of these guys 0, anything times 0 is 0, so all I have to do is make one or the other 0. As it says here. Because if one parenthesis becomes 0, then the whole thing becomes 0. In other words, if I make x minus 3 0, 0 times this becomes 0. Or I make this guy 0. This times 0 equals 0. To do this, all we have to do is do the opposite. So instead of minus 3, we add 3. Add 3 to one side, add 3 to the other. You get x equals 3. Where over here, we have x plus 7 equals 0. So instead of plus 7, you're going to minus 7. Minus 7 to one side, minus 7 to the other. Therefore, you have two separate answers. You can either say the answer is 3 or negative 7. To prove it, I'll plug both in. Notice here that 3 minus 3 makes 0. 3 plus 7 does make 10, but 0 times 10 equals 0. Over here, you have x minus 3, x plus 7. Put a negative 7 in for both. Well, negative 7 minus 3 makes negative 10, but negative 7 plus 7 makes 0. Negative 10 times 0 is also 0. Therefore, since both of these will make the whole thing equal 0, they make a true statement. Therefore, the answer to this equation is 3 and negative 7. You try. Go ahead at this time. Let's see how you did. This one might be a little simplistic. Might even be a little tricky for some because I didn't have to do anything to this x. I can simply make this x into a 0. This, however, x minus 5 equals 0 instead of minus 5. Add 5 to both sides. Therefore, x could either equal 0 or 5 to get the correct answer. You try too. Go ahead at this time. Let's see how you did. Go ahead and make this instead of plus 3, minus 3, instead of minus 8, plus 8, so negative 3 and positive 8. Now, when you have this here, you already have an equation. We have to factor it first. So x squared plus 7x plus 10, to remind you, two numbers that add that would make 7, but multiply to make 10. You could try 10, 1, 2, 5, 5, 2, 10, 1, and you'll find that 5 and 2 in either way will work. So x plus 5 and x plus 2. Now, I go ahead and split them apart here saying, well, x plus 5 could equal 0, or x plus 2 could equal 0. X plus 5 equals 0 instead of plus 5, minus 5, minus 5 to one side, minus 5 to the other. Over here, instead of plus 2, minus 2, minus 2 to one side, minus 2 to the other. Therefore, x could equal negative 5 or negative 2. Now, how do we find these numbers here? Go ahead, if I plug them in, take this chart here. If I went ahead and make this chart, and since I know my number is going to be negative 5 and negative 2, I'm going to find numbers that are around here, and look what happens. At negative 6, I get positive 4 way up here. Negative 5 is 0. Negative 4 is 2. Negative 3 is negative 4 is negative 2. Negative 3 is negative 2. Negative 2 is 0, and negative 1 is back up to 4. So realistically, the middle is somewhere right here. That's going to be the beginning of the crest as it comes up. But it hits the x-intercept twice at negative 2 and negative 5. Also, if I plugged in a negative 2 and negative 5, it would also equal 0 as well. You try, go ahead. Let's see how you did. Go ahead and put it down. What two numbers could I add to make positive 4 but times to make negative 32? You get positive 8 and negative 4. Why? Because 8 plus negative 4 makes positive 4, and 8 times negative 4 is negative 32. Go ahead and split them apart. X plus 8 equals 0. X minus 4 equals 0. Go ahead, instead of plus 8, minus 8. Minus 8 to one side, minus 8 to the other. Instead of minus 4, plus 4 to one side, plus 4 to the other. Either way, you get x equals negative 8 and x equals 4. And if I plug them in on a graph, you'll see once again that these guys do fit. You don't have to plug them into a graph. I just want you to be able to see that they meet the x-intercept. And also, if you plugged in negative 8 and positive 4 right here, it would also equal 0 as well. Quick break. And back. Now, X squared plus 2x equals 8. First, move all the numbers to one side. Really, it doesn't matter if I move them all this way or this way. My suggestion is simply to find the easiest way you want. In other words, I would just get rid of the positive 8. Could I minus x squared and minus 2x? Yes, you could. Might make it harder, though. Minus 8 to both sides might make it easier. So I'll minus 8 over here, minus 8 over here. And now I have x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Go ahead and split them up. How? What two numbers added would make positive 2, but times would make negative 8. You'll find it's negative 4 and positive 2. Excuse me, positive 4 and negative 2. Sorry about that, caught myself there. So I'll split them up. Each one can equal 0. Go ahead and then minus 4 to both sides, add 2 to both sides. Again, x equals negative 4, x equals 2. If you notice how I graphed them again. Why am I choosing to graph every time? Just to show you where they fit. You do not have to graph them unless it states so, and it probably won't in your homework. I just want you to visually see why we do this. You try, go ahead. Let's see how you did. Hopefully you added 9 to both sides first. What two numbers times are going to make negative, added is going to make negative 6, but times it makes positive 9, negative 3 and negative 3. In this case, it will be the same answer, which is fine, x equals 3. Since both answers are 3, you only need one single 3 for your solution. Now you have this, negative 2x squared equals 18 minus 12x. Really, to find x, I said you could switch to either side. That's still true. It depends on what you want to do. I could just add 2x squared to both sides here. Or I could minus 18 and add 12x to both sides and move them all to this side. Either way, they are going to be the same. Either way, they are going to be the same x-intercept values. So that doesn't change. Now divide, in this case, if I have this here, just divide them all by 2. Why? To get x squared by itself. Do you have to do that? No, but it makes your life so much easier if you do it that way. It's easier. Divide by 2 to all 3. And you get x squared minus 6x plus 9. Now when you pull the 2 out, I divide 2 over here and I can divide 2 over here. Basically it makes it go away. Because I am dividing 0 by 2, it still just becomes 0 though, so you can do that. Therefore now 0 equals x squared minus 6x plus 9. And yes, just split them up, factoring. What two numbers add to make negative 6, but times will make plus 9, minus 3, you'll find the answer is going to be 3 again, as we'll determine here. Yep, that's just, I did it the long way. I shouldn't have had to do it the long way, but that's okay. Take a look over here. If I would have went ahead and added minus 18 and added 12. Now this looks a little weirder, but to get x squared by itself, I'll divide by negative 2. So divide everything by negative 2, and notice how when I pull them out, it also is x squared minus 6x plus 9, and divide negative 2 here, you got to divide negative 2 over here, and again, 0 divided by anything is still 0, so it basically makes it go away. From there, it's the same procedure as this guy, x minus 3, x minus 3, so I'll go ahead and just say that x minus 3 equals 0, either way. Yes, if you graph both of these, they will look different, but they will also be the same intercepts. If you take a look up here, 2x squared minus 12x plus 18, negative 2x squared plus 12x minus 18. Yes, they're different loops. However, they both touch at the x equals 3, the x-intercept. And that's all we're measuring here. We're not trying to measure the actual parabola. I was simply trying to find when will it cross the x-intercept line. And either parabola will be x equals 3. Now finally, a sports application. The height of a diver above the water during dive can be modeled by h, mean height, equals negative 16t squared, which is basically how far you fall in gravity. It's not actually the speed at which you fall. It is simply how far you've gone in so many seconds. So I guess you could, for simplistic sake, we'll call it gravity, even though it isn't gravity per se. Because the force of gravity on Earth, I think, is 9.8 meters per second. But for our limited use, we'll say that negative 16 feet squared will be our equation of how far you've fallen. Anyway, negative 16t squared is gravity pulling you down. 8t is you jumping up off the diving board. And 48 is actually where you how high you were off the diving board versus the water, which is actually very high. That would be 16 yards in the air, which is pretty high. So where h is height in feet and t is time in seconds. So basically you're 48 feet above the water, okay? You jump up at a force of 8 feet per second, and gravity's going to start pulling you back down again. The question is, how long will it take you to hit the water? Now, before we continue, you might say, who cares? Well, if you're a diver, obviously you want to land like this with your hands into the water. If you don't, at 48 feet, you might very well hurt yourself pretty badly. Either you want to land hands first in a dive or feet first, just, like this, and you're just going straight down. Either way, you want to be very careful. What you don't want to do is to be in the middle of a flip and either belly flop or hit your back. Both are going to screw you up pretty bad. So knowing how long you have to complete your dives, you can figure out, hopefully, what kind of tricks or dives or curls or spins you want to try before you straighten out and hit the dive and get into the water. Anyway, here's the equation. So let's break the equation down. We talked about h is height, and negative 16t squared is gravity. 8t is upward force of your jump, and 48 is the incredibly high start point you have for the dive. Now we're going to make h equal 0, meaning why is height going to be 0? Because you're up here, but how long will it take for you to get down here? How long will it take to land? And so what you do is 0 equals all this. Well, from there we can go ahead and divide out. Now notice how I didn't divide out by negative 16. Even though I'd like to get t squared by itself, doing so would make this a fraction, and that could just throw things awry. So let's just divide by negative 8 to all three. I will divide by the negative to get rid of the negative sign here, which will help me. So I divide by negative 8 over here, divide by negative 8 by the 0, which I guess I'll get to in a second. For right now, by taking the negative 8 out, I have 2t squared minus 1t minus 6. Now, since I have a number larger than 1 for my leading coefficient, what you're going to do is you're going to take the 2 times the negative 6. 2 times negative 6, which makes negative 12. So again, 2 times negative 6 makes negative 12. And now you have to ask yourself what two numbers, if I added, would make negative 1, but times would make negative 12, and you'll find that's negative 4 and positive 3. So I split to negative 4 and positive 3. It doesn't matter what order they're in. I just put negative 4 in front, but I could have put plus 3, and it would actually give me the same result. So from there, I'm going to take these two and set them right here. Take these two and set them right here. Notice that there's simply a plus separating them, and I still have the plus there. Now, what can I pull out of these guys? I can pull out a 2t, and I can pull out a 3 here, and notice that I have t minus 2 and t minus 2, so 2t plus 3 are all being times by t minus 2, right here. And don't forget the negative 8 I still left there for now. 2t plus 3, if it equals 0, the whole thing would equal 0. If t minus 2 equals 0, the whole thing equals 0. And you go ahead and work out each number. So minus 3 to both sides, divide by 2, add 2 to both sides. I have two different answers, negative 1.5 and 2. Now the 2 seconds makes sense because you're on the diving board, you jump up and splash. You're in the water in 2 seconds. So why do you have a negative 1.5? Well, the formula doesn't know that you're standing on a diving board. It's thinking it's a parabola. So basically, if you were to reverse time from here, it would take you, how long to get up there and down again. It doesn't know that you're at a fixed position. As far as the math equation is concerned, if this is the parabola, you're not even in the middle. You're about right here, and you're going to jump up and then come down. So you're actually about 2/3, 3/4 of the way up, and your jump is going to finish the parabola and come down. And that's why you have a negative 1.5. But since we can't measure negative 1.5, disregard it. And obviously 2 is the only answer you want. Clearly, since t equals time, you really can't use negative numbers, so the only positive value is u. So again, 2 seconds, splash. And we are done. Good lesson, thanks. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Take care, bye.